when I say that this is very bullish for Bitcoin in this deflationary world, it's because the thing that AI is not going to do is they are not going to be printing. They're not going to deleverage hard assets, whether it's copper, whether it's oil, whether it's Bitcoin. In fact, in that world, and in the AI agentic world, where we have 1 million agents being born every day in the US that are going to require digital wallets and want digital money and use Bitcoin as a base layer. That Bitcoin Policy Institute just released that study. I'll bet you saw it several days ago. And it said overwhelmingly, that was the words they used, overwhelmingly, AI agents and AI itself prefers Bitcoin as a store of value, over 80%. So although there may be stable coins, there may be Lightning, which is going to open up at the end of March with Strike. They're going to have Lightning payments going live. I think it was Strike. But with all of the AI on top of these digital assets, the base layer is going to be Bitcoin. You can almost think of it as US treasuries, if you will, to a digital world. And I think the demand for Bitcoin is going to just accelerate like a rocket.
That's crazy to think about, because what is the value of something that is truly scarce and cannot be manipulated in a world where everything can be manipulated? If you think about us, this interview could be done by AI. I think if you would have done it with AI, it probably people will still spot it, but I don't think they will spot it in 5 years. I don't think they know, is that the real George or is that like a clone George and he's just like painting pictures in the background. And even robotics, I think we will live in this world where there's a robot coming near you, and without stabbing a knife in his belly, you would not know if it's a real human being or if it's a robot, because they just like get so good at like talking and speaking and moving like a human being. I don't know how long this all takes. I just know like it will come reality at some point. And then Bitcoin is the only thing left that you can actually verify and has as like some true scarcity to it.
That's an interesting point that you bring up. That is interesting, because I actually think that you're right about that. That is in 3 to 5 years, I think you could probably have a virtual clone doing an interview like this that could probably fool most people. So if that is the case, it's almost like what I was discussing earlier regarding AI. If that is the case, then what has some of the most important value to human beings as a species? I believe that it would be to verify that you and I are actually real, and that we're here having a real conversation, and that all of our fallacies, all of our hesitations, all of our human inputs will become even more important, because people will want that human connection. One of the most important things you may have in the future world as deflation takes effect and you have more and more wealth, so to speak, purchasing power, is the ability to just have experiences with other human beings, whether it's a dinner, whether it's friends, family. And I say today, I use AI constantly. I'm just constantly involved using it. But I'm also trying to cultivate at the time real experiences with people and doing real things. I just got back from the Caribbean and a deep dive trip, swimming with and just having a blast down there. Friends out doing things that, in the evening on the islands, down with sharks, swimming and stuff. I mean, I just had a great time, and it was really special and important because it was an experience with other people. And I don't know the future. I have no idea where this is going. I do know it's going to be incredibly disruptive. And again, it's coming on the heels of what I think is the end of the fourth turning, the winter. And so we've got to get through this, all of us. And, this is a great time to be there for people that you love and that you want to be around.
And I think this leads us also to an interesting one that I'm curious how you think about, because I think the most valuable thing that we have is not Bitcoin, but the time that we have. And so, so the time spent with our loved ones, the time spent with ourselves, the time spent thinking, that just the time that you have on this planet Earth. I mean, yes, there are movements, and there might just be escape velocity with health, where we just like get older and older, and we can replace things with robotic things, and like I don't know, like we get a artificial heart. I'm not an expert in all of those, so I leave it open as it might happen, it might not happen. But as it stands right now, time is the most valuable thing that we have, and I'm willing to trade some Bitcoin for it.
Well said, Robin. That's really well said. Obviously for somebody as old as myself, in the fourth turning, I think the end of the last fourth turning was probably around 55 or so, as far as 1955. So I came. Actually, it'd probably be the end of World War II. So by 1955, that would put me in the architect of nomad, I believe. And it's funny because what that means is that I'm nearing the end of my life, the end of the saculum, the 80 to 100-year-old life, as this fourth turning comes to a close. And I absolutely understand and both see what you're discussing, which is that of all my assets, of all the precious things to me, time is the most. And I try not to waste it anymore. You know, when you start talking about time, then you have to acknowledge to yourself, what is wealth? And, wealth is not money. Wealth is not riches. Wealth is not things. All things that you own also own a portion of you. If you buy an expensive biplane that you want to take care of, guess what? It takes a part of you, your commitment, your time, your energy. A house is the same thing. A car. You need to somehow, as a human being, find that balance that allows you to enjoy your life and to be purposeful, including those others that are around you, to be with them. And at the end of your life, when you take that final breath, all those things that you collected, all those trinkets in life, all the things that you might have liked, maybe a beer mug collection or something in the back of the studio, they're not going to mean jack shit. You go out of here with nothing. You're bare naked. You might have a toe tag on if you're unfortunate, but that's about it. What you leave behind are all the memories, all the things that people have of you, the changes that you made in other people's lives. Maybe sometimes it's just a word you said or a sentence. Often it's what you didn't say to somebody that's really important. So yes, time is very precious, my friend. And I don't know how much time we've got left.
What is a toe tag?
Well, when I was a cop, you know, uh, and you went into the morgue, a couple times I went in the morgue, and they wheel a body out, and there's nothing there. I mean, the body's naked. It's a morgue, except there's a toe tag on the end of the toe, and it's a tag that has the person's name on there, and it identifies them. And I assume they still do the same thing today. Maybe not, but doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is, when they wheel you out of there, when you're gone, you're not taking anything with you, Robin.
Yeah, I want to bring this one up because I found it such an
Oh
interesting,
yeah.
such an amazing tweet of yours. I think it's already a couple of, yeah, it's like 1.5 years ago already that you posted that, or like more than that. And it's pinned to your profile, and I just wanted to read it because I think it fits so nicely in what we just discussed. You said Bitcoin, life is good as you let it be. Stop arguing on X. Don't buy into the right versus left warfare rhetoric. You are a Bitcoiner. You have won the war. Be a magnanimous, like my English is not good enough for that word. Victor, George, the artist, seen with full Bitcoin bags, bourbon, and ice cream. That's an amazing image. And then that teddy bear is huge. It's bigger than yourself.
He's my buddy. So the thing is that I really believe what I said when I say that if you hold Bitcoin, if you understand Bitcoin, if you're convicted and you know what you hold, then you have won this war. This is a very simple process. I have never seen more asymmetric advantage in holding an asset in my life. There is nothing. One thing I did not touch on when we were discussing strategy and why STRC works is because it would not work on any other asset. No underlying asset, no AUM. There is nothing that strategy could stick up its butt that would make it work except Bitcoin. So if you understand that, if you realize, and that's part of why I said at the beginning, a global growth company utilizing their treasury operations through intelligent leverage to securitize or financialize Bitcoin. That's it. Without Bitcoin, this does not work. And if you understand that, if you look at the CAGR and the returns of Bitcoin and you look at the hardness of it, gold, I mean, obviously everybody's really enamored with gold. I just bought some gold as a defensive measure. And besides, gold is fairly stable. It has been in the past compared to Bitcoin. So if the shit hits the fan and I need some cash or something, I can always sell my gold. I'm not going to take much of a loss. Or more importantly, I'm not going to lose the opportunity cost if I had to sell some Bitcoin, which I do not want to do. So this only works on Bitcoin, this whole philosophy. And if you look at gold, right now there's probably about 210,000 tons of gold above ground. They're mining about somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 a year out of the ground, just depending upon the price and different fines, etc. So, it's got an inflation rate between 1.5 to 2%. This guy had that for millennia now. And that means that every 36 years, you're going to lose, half of your purchasing power or thereabouts. Bitcoin doesn't have that. It's unique. Its stock to flow ratio is about 115 right now. I think gold's is like 65, 66, somewhere in there. There's no comparison. So if you understand that, then just like that picture you brought up a minute ago, you've already won. Don't overthink this. It's just, fifth grade math, as my friend used to say, Greg. It's easy. And once you get it, once you understand it, you're at peace. I mean, look at me. I'm having the greatest time of my life. Bitcoin sank down like a rock. I didn't give a shit. I don't care. And as the years, the mismatch is duration. It's the duration risk. Most assets, as duration goes out farther and farther on the curve, you get more and more exposed. You're more and more nervous about lending money, whatever. Look at the treasuries. Look at what's happening right now in the bond market. People are getting nervous, and they're not flooding to treasuries. They're starting to wonder how much they're going to have to get for that treasury in order to be rewarded. It's a duration risk and a mismatch. Bitcoin doesn't have that. The only risk that you can associate with Bitcoin is the nascent asset part of it. You can say, oh, Bitcoin's only been around 16, 17 years. It's risky. Okay, I agree. You're absolutely right. But what I do know is from studying that it's every 10 minutes, tick tock, next block. And I have no concerns or worries about Bitcoin. Even the current controversy that's going on, whether it's knots versus core, BIP 110, none of that worries me. I think it's part of Bitcoin's process, and I'm convicted. And if you are, then again, you've already won. Be magnanimous, which means, a gracious victor.
There are English words that I've never heard before. I want to first want to get to personal finance and then maybe just briefly to the BIP 110 issue, because I've come to realize now that I'm 27 years old and I'm getting more wise in my young years, that a cash reserve sometimes is not a bad idea to have something else outside of Bitcoin and self-custody. I've realized that in the last 6 months, and now I'm slowly building up other cash reserves, building up something else outside of Bitcoin, because up until I think November, I was just 100% Bitcoin and self-custody. Now people ask more questions because now we have Bitcoin, we have cold hard cash that you can build up as a reserve, like being USD on your account or euro or whatever, or even gold. Then you can buy now MSTR for amplification. You can buy SDRC for cash flow. There's so many options now as a Bitcoiner that you can do with your personal finance and how you allocate your money and all of those things. Do you have any not guidelines, but like any way or framework to think about all the different options you have as a Bitcoiner when you are aware of what Bitcoin is and how you best position yourself?
Well, let's get back to some basics though when we have that discussion. And I'll start it out with one thing. I'll fall back to one of my first comments here at the start of this, which is that you must have things that governments cannot print. That is the key to your going forward. And the second thing is there is nothing that compares to Bitcoin in cold storage where you hold the keys. That is Bitcoin.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro-seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.